Hi, I'm Bob Trask, and this is our weekly reset. Now, what if there was just something in your life, one little something that you could do that would make it possible for you to have anything you wanted? Anything, anything. One little thing, just one thing, one thing. Now, I want to just mention, though, that, and I think that we both know this, is that one little thing that I want, that one little thing that you want, it largely depends on people. It largely depends on people. So Harvard University made a study of 700 people for over 75 years, some beginning in 1938 when the participants were just teenagers. And the purpose of the study was to discover what makes life most fulfilling, what makes life most successful. Where do people where do people eventually go and they say, yes, yes, this is it. Yes, my life is right where I want it to be. Where do we go to make that happen? So year after year, the 700 people were followed and asked many questions about how their lives were going. They were interviewed and constantly studied over all those years, asked about their home lives, their school work, or their work lives. Each of those people were carefully documented until now, when 60 of the original 700, after 75 years, 60 of them are still alive and still participating in the study. Many of them are in their 90s. Shasta Nelson, great speaker, great thinker, said, experts assert that supportive relationships improve our odds of survival by 50%. So if you said to yourself, well, I think I'm going to live till I'm 75, or I think I'm going to live till I'm 85, or I think I'm going to live till I'm 100, you can improve that estimation by 50 by 50% if you have supportive relationships. And now more than 2,000 participants are being studied. They're the offspring of those original 700. The offspring of those original 700, 2,000 of them are now in this study. And back in 1938, when those youngsters were first in the study, a great many of them lived in tenements. Most of them lived in tenements, many without hot or cold running water. And they used smelly community outhouses. Ugh. Those youngsters grew up to inhabit all walks of life, everything from laborers to lawyers. One even became president of the United States. Others became alcoholics. Some of them spend most of their life in prisons as criminals. And some even became schizophrenic. And through all those years, they were regularly interviewed. Their brains were scanned. Their children and their spouses were interviewed. So what from the tens of thousands of pages of study is valuable to my life? How does it affect my life? How does it affect your life? How does that study make any difference in your life or my life? Like, if they'd studied those people for 700 people for 75 years and they're still studying them and they found out something that could make life fulfilling, that could help me live a longer life and maybe be more successful in health, in wealth, in all areas of my life, what would that be? Well, a recent study of millennials, we all know who millennials are, found that 80% of them want to become wealthy. And 50% of them also want to be famous. Wealthy and famous. Sounds good to me. And when the study participants were teenagers, most of them also wanted to be rich and successful. That's what they wanted. And yet, when the researchers went back over the years of the study, they found that neither wealth nor fame made a whit of difference. Like if people were living in abject poverty and then they got a job where they got some really money flowing in, no question that changed their lives. No question. But we're talking about people who were living normal lives. The study found that neither wealth nor fame made for happier lives. Even those who became quite wealthy and those who became really famous had no more joy than others. No more joy. The one thing that made their lives joyful, it was solid, quality relationships. Solid, quality relationships. So, I'm asking myself, so how are my relationships? Do I have solid, quality relationships? Well, yeah, kind of. Yeah, I guess, I got two or three people that I have pretty solid. Yeah, really quality and pretty solid relationships. I mean, I don't know that I could go to the bank on those, but but good relationships kept those people happier and kept their brains functioning better. And they're also living longer. My old friend Leo Biscaglia, who's left the planet now, dear Leo, I know you're still here, Leo. He said, too often we underestimate the power of a touch. Underestimate the power of a touch, a smile, a kind word, or a listening ear, an honest compliment, or the smallest act of caring, all of which have the potential to turn a life around. An honest compliment, the smallest act of caring can turn a life around? Yeah, it can. Yeah, it can. There's a famous story, and I wish I knew it more clearly than I do right now, but some of you have heard the story and know the story well. And that's that um, there was a boy on his way home from school, and and he was a boy that wasn't accepted. He wasn't accepted. I don't know, maybe he was also bullied, but he was alone and he just couldn't fit in. And he was on his way home from school and he dropped his books. And one of the cool dudes who was really accepted went over and helped him pick up his books. And the guy was really unhappy and he said, "Come on, I'll buy you a Coke." So we went and bought him a Coke. And many years later, that guy who was very well known and very successful said, "On that day, I was on my way home to commit suicide. An honest compliment or the smallest act of caring," says Leo, "has the potential to turn a life around." So it's not just what I get, it's what I give. I have the opportunity. See, I worked for a while in the emergency rescue business. I did a lot of things I don't want to talk about here, but some pretty ghastly and horrific things that I worked on. And I was trying to, and sometimes was successful in saving lives and in helping people stay together until we could get them into the hospital. And I look back on that and I say, I'm so glad I did that. But what I'm doing now maybe is more important because now I'm turning lives around and you are turning lives around. We're a team. You have the ability flowing out of you. You know how unique you are, how special you are in all of this. 108 billion people that have ever been on this planet. There's never been another you. Your fingerprint, your eye print, the neuronal print, your voice print. Never been another you. Nobody else anywhere else in the world has your ideas, your thoughts, your 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 concept of reality. Nobody. And there's a light that comes out of you. There's a light, there's a God light that shines out of you. And if you're willing to open that light and let it shine into the heart of someone else, it can turn their life around, it can change their life. But in the act of doing that, it also turns my life around. It also turns your life around. Because we create quality relationships. See, here's the dark side of this study, is that loneliness kills us. Loneliness. Have you been lonely? Have you ever been completely lonely? Have you ever been so lonely that it ached inside of you? Sometimes it happened when you were in a relationship, sometimes it not. Sometimes when you were in a school or with other students, or you were in a job, and still, you were lonely. Or you were like me, when I was a young singer in my little apartment looking down on California Street in San Francisco. I was so lonely. Oh, it ached. It ached. I would have cried, but I was way beyond tears. I was farther than tears. My deep sorrow was deeper than tears. And I would sit in my window and watch people walking by on the street. This is San Francisco. Hello? Walking back and forth on the street, and yet I was alone and lonely. How hard would it have been if I'd have just known better to go down on the street and just say hello to somebody? Just let the God light shine out of me. Let my heart light turn on. How hard would that have been? But I didn't know. I didn't know what to do. We have almost 250 million people in the United States. So I guess we could say that loneliness is a choice, could we not? Since we're surrounded by 250 million people, 8 billion on the planet. But, and here's the big but, there's lots of people who are also lonely in marriages and in friendships and in their community. So it's not just having a relationship, it's having a quality relationship. It's having a relationship where you feel that the following 4 things are present. I'm going to talk about 4 simple things. 4 simple, oh so simple things that will make your relationships shine. Shine. I know, because I learned this. I learned this back when I was a bus driver, from 4 beautiful older Black women who rode my bus regularly. And they taught me this. Number 1, you have to feel accepted. So we're breaking down the loneliness here now. That's what we're doing. You have to feel accepted exactly as you are. Not like someone wants you to be. You have to feel accepted exactly as you are. Number 2, you need to feel respected. I said before that you're this unique person. You're the only one that's ever lived. My God, isn't that alone worth your respect, or people's respect for you? Isn't that alone worth them respecting you? And as Martin Luther King said, he'd been to the mountaintop. You, my friend, have been to the mountaintop probably several times. You know the path. You have been so hurt. You have been so lost. You have been so crushed. And you came back. And you came back. You have been in a dark relationship and you survived and you came back and you built something out of that. How can anyone not respect you? And then you must feel the affection of others. Yes, the affection. Now, if you're not feeling affection of others, then you're in my little hotel room on California Street in San Francisco, looking out the window and saying, I don't feel affection. You got to get out there. You got to get out there. You need to also feel supported, supported in being you. So those are the four: acceptance, respect, affection, and support. ARAS, ARAS, acceptance, respect, affection, and support. If you're not feeling that, then you don't have quality relationships. But you need to realize that those people down there on the street weren't going to come up to my room and give me acceptance, respect, affection, and support. There is nobody going to come and knock on my door. The only way I was going to get that happening is to go out on the street and give it away. Gloria Steinem, wonderful Gloria Steinem, said, far too many people are looking for the right person instead of trying to be the right person. Instead of trying to be the right person. Zig Ziglar, great speaker. Oh my God, how many lives did Zig Ziglar change? He said, if you're looking for a friend, you're going to find they're very scarce. If you go out to be a friend, you'll find them everywhere. These things don't just happen when the right people meet. Relationships between people is friendship. That's what changes it from I know Frank, I see Frank once in a while. I think a lot about Frank. I think he's a nice guy. He thinks I'm a nice guy. But there's a different level when I becomes my friend. That we become pals. And if that's going to happen, then I'm going to have to do something different, because I'm going to tell you something about Frank and about Barbara and about Leon and about Marianne and all of those people. They're living inside of their own encapsulated little worlds that's made up of their belief systems and all of the experiences they had and all their memories. They're living inside of those, and they're defensive. They're defensive. They don't want anybody coming in and insulting them or hurting. So they're defensive. They got a little wall around them. You got a little wall around you. I got a little wall around me. We're all defensive. If you go up to someone and smile and say, how are you doing today? The wall just came down. The wall just came down. Why? Because they realize you're not a threat. Not only are you not a threat, but you're reaching out to them. You're reaching out to them. So relationships that work are friendships. And that takes attention, and it does take focus, and it takes dedicated work done by people who are truly committed to each other. So the bottom line is you got to be able to depend on one another. If both are committed, then we have a relationship that's a friendship. And if they're only partially committed, or if only one's committed, then someone's going to be lonely. Someone's going to be lonely. And how do I know if I'm committed? How do I know if I'm committed to a relationship? If I'm committed to a relationship, if I'm dedicated, then I'm dedicated to making that other person feel accepted and respected and and giving affection and support. They got to feel, if they're feeling that from me, boy, their wall not only came down, but they want me in their life, because there are not a lot of people in their lives that are giving them acceptance, accepting them for no, ain't happening. Not a lot of people in their lives respecting them. Not a lot of people in their lives willing to be affectionate. Not a lot of people in their lives willing to support. Let me help you with that. Let me help you with that. Hey, I can get that door for you. Not a lot of people giving support. But if you're giving that acceptance, respect, affection, and support, man, I'm telling you, they're your friend. Living in the midst of conflict is really bad for our health. Did you know that? High conflict relationships, especially marriage conflicts. Oh, and intimate relationships. Oh, family conflicts. They'll eventually destroy us. See that? See, I said that we live inside these encapsulated like silos, and inside of that we have we're living inside of that. That's our life, and it's made up of our life is made up of memories. That's what we're made up. Our consciousness is made up of memories. Now we have a consciousness outside of that, a spiritual consciousness, but our ego consciousness is in the silo. That's our relationship side, and we have beliefs and opinions and memories, and they're all going on all together and constantly going on together. And now I've got other people in the family, and they all have their little silos, and everybody's saying, "No, you're wrong. No, you're wrong." Blah, 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 blah. Well, I tell you, blah, blah. And it just goes on and on and on and on and on. Oh my God! One of my favorite sayings is that we can either be right or we can be loved. It's damned hard to be both. It's damned hard to be both. We can be right or we can be loved. If we need to be right, then we're going to be alone. Because these other people are also right. Right just means consistent with your belief system. That's all right means. They're all consistent with their belief systems, so they're all right. And I'm right. Who cares? Let someone else be right. Just let them be right. This is not going to kill me to let them be right. Might kill my ego, but it isn't going to kill me. Families that fall apart do many times do so because it's the healthy thing for them to go their own ways, because they just can't stop hammering at each other. And sometimes then divorce is a healthier thing to do. And it's because they didn't build a foundation. They didn't build a foundation. Listen to me. In your relationships with your family, in your relationships with your friends, do you have a foundation? Do you know that you can count on one another? We have to be able to count on one another. A lot of times families or groups of people together who think they're friends, or people in a business together, or on a team together, it's a melting pot that destroys the people inside, because it's all about I'm right, oh no, you're wrong. We can't do that. We can't afford to do that. We can't afford to do that. 700 people went through a study, and what was found is that we can't afford to do that. When the studiers looked back on the lives of those most successful and long lived, they found that in their 50s, it was not their cholesterol levels. It was not whether they had diabetes. It was not any of those other things that determined how long they would live. It was the quality of their relationships. The study is there. None of those things determined how long they would live. It was the quality of their relationships. The study showed that those who lived into their mid-80s and beyond had warm, supportive relationships. Those with happy relationships at age 50, they were the healthiest beyond 80. Sanu Sharma, great author and speaker, said, "For the heart, companion, and company are needed." Can we think about that just for a minute? For the heart, for my heart, for your heart, the real heart, the physical heart, as well as the emotional heart. For the heart, companion and company are needed. We need to have companions. We need to have company. We need to have somebody that we can rely on. And my dear, dear friends, good relationships don't just protect our bodies. They also protect our brains. Good relationships protect us from memory loss. Did you know that? So our healthy relationships make us healthy, and they also make us successful in life. We live in a people community. We Everything about life is about people. When I'm hired to go um, do counseling for businesses, and that I've I've worked with some of the biggest businesses in the world, top level management owners, creators of these big multinational companies, and I have several messages for them, but the main message is this: I don't care what business you're in the people business. You're in the people business. I don't care what business you're in. It's the people business. And you and I, we are in the people business because we live in this great milling world of 8 billion people. And our success in life, in every part of life, depends on us being in joy. Wait a minute, I haven't said that in this talk. The joy? What's joy got to do with it? Come on, Bob. What's joy got to do with it? It's this. All personal power comes from joy. Now, personal force doesn't come from joy. You can force something, but if you're going to be, if you don't have to force it, if you want it to just flow smoothly and beautifully and be successful with the least amount of effort, it's joy. It's joy. And joy comes from great relationships. We live in a people community, and all we can accomplish, all we can do, all we can have, all we can be is dependent on our ability to relate to others in a caring way. And it's easy: acceptance, respect, affection, and support. Acceptance, respect, affection, and support. ARAS, ARAS. Charlotte Bronte said if we could build on a sure foundation of friendship, we must love friends for their sake rather than for ours. And I want to finish today by quoting Paramahansa Yogananda, who I consider to be a friend, although I never met him. He was gone off the planet before I could have met him. But he was such a powerful spiritual leader and such a great mind. And I just love him to pieces. And he said, there's a magnet in your heart that will attract true friends. There's a magnet in your heart that will attract true friends. That magnet is unselfishness, thinking of others first. When you learn to live for others, he said, they will live for you. So let's go out and make friends. Let's see how many lives we can touch with acceptance, respect, affection, and support. Let's see how many people we can touch. How many people there'll be friends that we can depend on them. That's how we know they're friends. We can depend on them. How many can we have? How many lives can you touch? How many lives can I touch? How many places can we make a difference? If this planet by some chance ends up gone from the human race because of diseases or nuclear war or whatever, it's going to be a great failure in what? In relationships. So what can I do to save the world? Create powerful, loving, deep, quality relationships. Let's go start today. Let's go start today. Let's start with the people that we know. Let's ask ourselves, do I really accept that person exactly as he or she is? And do I have respect for them? I mean, do I show my respect? Do I show my respect? And how about affection? Do I touch that person's shoulder when I walk by them? Do I say nice things? Do I say the things that they need to hear that are affectionate? Do I give them a hug if that's appropriate? Hmm. And can they count on me? Do I support them? Here, let me get that door. Here, I'll carry that for you. Do I support them? Hmm. Let's go do that. Let's go make a difference. Let's start today. And by the end of our lives, which will be somewhere in the hundreds, let's make sure that we have a gaggle of wonderful friends. Thanks for being with me. Thank you. Please support me by going to bobtrask.com and leaving a donation so I can expand my work. I appreciate that very much. And tell other people to come to these weekly resets. Let's see if we can spread this and make a lot more people filled with joy and power. Go with my love, and I'll see you next week.